Der Umgang mit Ungewissheit fällt vielen in diesen Zeiten schwer und wir haben uns zusammengesetzt mit der internationalen Expertin Dr. Lynda Shaw. Eine internationale Expertin im Bereich Neurowissenschaft, die sich intensiv mit dem Gehirn beschäftigt hat und wie wir mit entsprechenden Situationen umgehen, entweder in der Führungsposition oder wenn wir geführt werden. Und wir beschäftigen uns natürlich auch damit, was passiert, wenn Führungskräfte sich fehlverhalten. Das Interview wurde in englischer Sprache geführt.
Uncertainty, crisis, and leadership. We are in challenging times, as we all know, and I'm very happy today that we have an international expert with us to explain a bit more to us how leaders can react in these times. She's an international speaker, international consultant. I know her for many years. She is a psychologist, so she knows what she's talking about when she talks about the brain and how we should deal with the situation at the moment. Hello and welcome, Dr. Lynda Shaw.
Hi, Niels. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you very much indeed. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, actually. Very, very busy. And of course, sort of hiding from the curveballs or jumping away from the curveballs, as there are plenty. But no, we're doing good.
Excellent. So let's get straight to it. When we talk about leadership at the moment and you have times of uncertainty, let's just say you have someone who has a couple of people on staff, and of course, most people will think, do I have a job in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months? They have rent to pay, they have mortgage to pay. And of course, as a leader, you might not be able to tell them if all these jobs will be available in the future. From your experience and with your psychological background, before we get to the point how to tell it others, how do you cope personally when you are under this stress of uncertainty as a leadership person?
Well, first of all, you've got to look after yourself. The uncertainty is there for everybody. And it's not an old thing. It's strange. Everyone's talking about uncertainty now, and I think that is the core of the problems that we have. But we've always had uncertainty, and we will continue to have uncertainty once COVID-19 has gone. We will continue to be in this state of uncertainty because of the speed of change. And it's not going to get better. It's just not going to get better. So first of all, we've got to come to grips and embrace uncertainty for oneself. And you do that by having some kind of anchor in reality, or a so-called reality, one's own reality. And that is by having routines and things that processes and systems in place where you feel that you've got some kind of control over your destiny. And that's the core of my work, is I put people in more control of their destiny than they thought possible. And the way I do that is to help them understand what's going on in their brain at any one time. So first of all, we've got to anchor ourselves into some kind of reality, exercise regularly so we're feeling in control. We've decided in our memory we're going to do some exercise. We're going to do to work. We're going to go to work and we are going to achieve X, Y, Z, and small goals that you can actually achieve and have some kind of sense of control. But as a leader, of course, you've then got to translate this to your direct reports. And that's a tough call, because each people will have their own issues. They'll have their own curveballs to handle. They'll be worrying about their loved ones. They're worrying about their health. We're worrying about their finances. All of those things that we've all been discussing for the last few months. So how to translate that to them is a big issue. And one of the things that is, I think, a major problem is the brain doesn't do gaps. It doesn't handle uncertainty very well because it comes with the gaps. So what we do with gaps, we feverishly seek out information. We look at the news too much. We look at all of these things because we've got to get this information. Brain needs to fill in gaps. But what we then do is we then make up stories. We make up stories to fill in those gaps, and then by doing so, that's a very stressful situation to be in, because the stories that we're making up are probably not as nice as we would like them to be. So every time we rerun those stories, the stress hormones are raging around the system, and they're making us even more stressed out and more anxious. So when we are talking to our direct reports, when we're talking to our teams of people, we are probably going through those stories again because our brain doesn't do gaps, and those stories aren't true. So the best thing to do is actually be really honest. You know what? I don't want to put my brain in this stressful situation by running these stories that I think may happen but may not. So let's all just talk about what's actually happening, what we know for sure, and what we can actually affect this week.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, we are not making up these stories, relating these stories to other people and relaying that information that actually might not come to anything at all. And therefore, we're in a stressful situation for no reason.
That's a very interesting point. When we talk about honesty, and you might know what I will refer to now, let's say you are in a leadership position and you gave people very clear advice what they should all do. And that, of course, applies maybe to your whole company, to all of them. And then let's say someone on a very senior level, someone from the leadership board, breaks the rules, and that is someone that is very close to you. So we had the case, you for sure have heard about it, of Dominic Cummings in the UK government in an advisory position, who allegedly, when we see it on the news at the moment, broke the laws or the guidelines Boris Johnson gave when it came to social distancing, not traveling, etc., etc. So how, as a leader, should you deal with these situations when someone who is very close to you, who you might know for a very long time, who's in an advisory position to you, and suddenly your own people say, what's happening here? How shall you react?
If we, as leaders, if we allow somebody who's very close to us flout the rules and it endangers the population, or indeed endangers the company or the corporation, then that person, that leader, has to get rid of the person who has done that. Mm-hmm. Because it is so important to maintain trust of those whom you represent and who work for you. If you don't do that, then they are going to kick up, those people are going to act up, they're going to be like petulant children, they are going to be doing everything they can to sabotage whatever it is you as the leader will then try to put in place. Mm-hmm. And you will perpetuate a society or a company of fear and mistrust. That is really not helpful to anyone.
Mm-hmm. So from a psychological point of view, let's say, and we all know how this might work. Of course, I don't want to say this is the case anywhere in free enterprise, but we all know that networks play an important role in free enterprise. People know each other, often come from the same background, same universities, same line of education, same families might even be. When you have these networks and suddenly people start to back each other up, even when there is significant misbehavior, like reportedly in this case of Dominic Cummings, when you then still back people who behave the wrong way, what happens psychologically with the people who follow you?
People who follow you, when you do not get rid of this person, do you mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What happens is that first of all they distrust you. Mm-hmm. Secondly, what they will do is they will then start to look for times when you have shown that you were not trustworthy. So they will be looking for times that their biases will be leaning very much to try to catch you out. And so whatever that leader might say in the future, it might be really good stuff. The people listening will be looking for the biases. They're looking for confirmation bias. Let's see, I now don't trust you. I'm now going to look for reasons why not to trust you and not see it with the other good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about people in families and people like that who one of their loved ones in a senior positions or whatever has let down the consensus. Take our Queen of England, for instance. She actually got rid of her own son, Prince Andrew, right?
Yeah.
Because she had people in her head. She is working for the people of the UK and her Commonwealth, what is left of it. So therefore, that came before her duty to her son as a mother. I mean, good heavens.
Lynda, just stop 1 second. I just had the door knocking. I have to cut that out. I'm just sorry.
Hola, hello, good morning. I'm of the community.
Okay.
Are you using in 1 hour ago the bathroom?
No.
Because we have a problem downside in the office.
Yeah.
Now
Okay.
about the water.
Okay. No.
You don't use it, the
No.
bathroom, anything?
No. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So here we are. Someone just knocked on the door. I'm going to cut that out, of course.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. So just start again with the Queen got rid of her own son, Prince Andrew, because that is a very good point. We just take it again from there. Okay.
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 Right.
Here we are.
Okay. You talk about people getting rid of or sacking or whatever, people who in their own family, the people who are close to them, but a real leader will put the company and the population before that one person. Take, for example, our Queen of England. She has just, she still loves her son, but she stopped him working for the firm. She stopped from working for the firm because she put the people before her relationship with her son. That's an amazing thing to do. And if the Queen of England can do that, then I am sure, and a woman in her early 90s can do that, I am sure leaders in companies and corporations and indeed countries can do the same thing as well. They have to put the people, the staff, their workforce, whomever, first, over and above this one person that is doing a huge damage.
So we can clearly say when people back up wrong behavior, they definitely cause a long-term damage, which is close to impossible to repair afterwards. Yes,
especially with something as serious as we're talking about now. People,
excellent.
The trouble is at the moment, the UK population is in a very high state of arousal. We have a constant layer of stress that we're coping with. So those stress hormones in the brain are going bananas. They're going absolutely berserk all the time. So all we need is the extra stresses on top, and we're going to flip. People are not, they're full up. They are going to tip over the edge and become unpredictable. They're not going to be thinking clearly. They're not going to be thinking innovatively, creatively. They might be aggressive. All of the negative things that can happen in the brain once those stress hormones are in a chronic situation and are layered by something else that's made the stress situation even worse.
Excellent. Thank you very much for this advice. So wrapping this whole up, when someone now sits there and says, okay, we have a stressful situation, we have uncertainty, I just want to know the top 3 tips. Where do I start when I'm a leader in a business right now? What would be your top 3 tips for them to start with?
Right. First of all, you've got to look after yourself. The only person we can ever change is ourselves. We cannot change anyone else. But we can motivate them, we can influence them, but we need to be in control of our own destiny. So we've got to look after our health, we've got to eat properly, drink properly, we've got to exercise and all of those things and anchor ourselves into some kind of routine so that we are feeling feeling more control of our destiny. From there, we need to then think about how we can talk to our direct reports, our teams and whomever. So therefore, try not to fill in the gaps of these stories that the brain needs. Try to actually sit down with those people, remotely of course, and at the moment at least, and then work out where we can go. This is what we've got. We can't think ahead, in a month, 2 years or anything like that. We can only think 1 week at a time, perhaps maybe 2 weeks at a time. Let's affect those things. Let's get in control of that. And also my third tip would be, lighten up. I know that sounds a ridiculous thing to say in this climate, but if we can put our brain in a pleasurable state, we can be actually far more effective and efficient and more innovative and more creative. So if we can actually, somewhere in all of this, actually have some light relief, especially when talking to our direct reports, having some humour, whatever going on, then we will be healthier, they will be healthier, and consequently, our corporations, our companies will be healthier too.
Excellent. Thank you very much for this advice. Of course, if you have any further additional things where you'd like to ask a question to Lynda Shaw, we're going to put her contact details into the show notes of this episode of our podcast, of the interview. And now, of course, I only have to thank Lynda Shaw to be here with us today. And yes, for everything you've done for us. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Niels. Take care now.